Hi, it's Heather with Murray's Home for Wayward Chickens, and I wanted to go over some of the stuff that we talked about last week. TJ and I made a video on how to check your chickens and assess them for injuries or illness. And so I wanted to touch base on a few of the things that we talked about last week in chicken basics. So when we mentioned worms and deworming we didn't mention deworming your chickens. We were talking about whether your chicken is lethargic, if their comb is flopped over and pale, if they're separated from the flock, if they don't have a lot of energy, if they're eating a lot but they're not gaining weight or they're losing weight, or they have dirty butts. So those things are indications that there's something wrong. And so the first one I want to talk about, which is important because it's like basic maintenance on your chicken. It's not even whether there's something wrong. It just needs to be done. And that's deworming. So at least once a year, usually twice a year, you want to deworm your chickens. It is normal for a chicken to carry, a healthy number of worm load. And so we've had chickens where when something goes really wrong and we take them to the vet, they'll do a fecal sample. We send it to Cornell, which is the beauty of us being partnered with Cornell now, because we can circumnavigate the vet and go directly to Cornell University to do the testing, because the director of the avian program will work with us to rehab the chickens. So that's awesome. And so the fecal sample will come back. They do like a float, and it tells you what the worm load is per milligram or something. And if the numbers are off the charts, you've got to deworm your chickens. So chickens carry worms. It has nothing to do with eggs or meat. It's just something that's in the chicken system. They're exposed to them from, wild birds, the ground, everything. So the four most important worms to talk about are the tapeworm, the gape worm, the hairworm, and the roundworm. I don't have much experience with the hairworm. I think it's a cecal worm or something. I'm not really sure. I haven't experienced that. But we've had tapeworms, roundworms. No, I think we had gapeworm once. So it's not that common. So I'll tell you, you have to deworm. You can use the natural dewormers that are available as a preventative. I do not recommend using a natural dewormer if your chickens have a high worm load and you're trying to cure them of an illness. They're going to die before it does anything. There's a lot of controversy with the natural dewormers that are out there. And so you can put cayenne pepper, like a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, in their drinking water once a week, and that will help prevent the worms from being able to latch on in the intestinal tract. There's pumpkin seeds. No. There's a couple of articles out there on how pumpkin seeds are effective. They're not. And I've read the articles that actually contraindicate that there's no evidence that pumpkin seed does anything to help deworm your chickens. There's also a lot of controversy on diatomaceous earth. Some people swear by it, and there's like a 50-50 percentage in both directions in the articles and the information out there that I've read. So there are places we've used diatomaceous earth in the past. I don't use it now, just because there are so many other options available that it's not worth the risk, due to the fact that there is so much conflicting information. If there were no other options, and okay, I might try it, but there's no need for me to take that risk. We use valbazen. The only thing is, the natural dewormers are good for preventative, as I said, because you can't build up a tolerance to the natural stuff. Like I tell you guys, I put cinnamon and oregano in all of the chicken snacks because cinnamon and oregano are natural antibiotics for a chicken, and they will not build up a tolerance to it the way that you would. A chicken's going to build up a tolerance to antibiotics the same way people do if you're constantly on the same antibiotic, which is why they have to get switched up. And so valbazen is a broad spectrum dewormer. It's not a natural one. So we're going to have to switch it up probably next year, because it's not so much that the chickens build up a tolerance to it, it's that the worms become resistant. And so valbazen is a phenomenal dewormer. Ivermectin's also effective. Ivermectin's like a fucking cure-all. Ooh, excuse me. Ivermectin is like a cure-all. That'll take care of a lot of different things. I think ivermectin is topical, and you can give it to them orally. It's also injectable. So valbazen used to be, it's like second, they used to have Wazine. Wazine was on the market for a long time, then apparently the FDA yanked it. There's a lot of, Canada and the United Kingdom have great and Australia all have really great poultry remedies that we can't get here. Sometimes you can squeeze them through with Amazon, but so anyway, you have to deworm at least once a year, usually twice, spring and fall. If you use Valbazen or something like Valbazen, it's going to take 2 days for you to see what comes out. Now, if you have roundworms 2 days after giving Valbazen, it's going to look like your chickens have angel hair pasta in their poop. Those are roundworms. If it looks like your chickens are pooping rice, grains of rice, that's tapeworm. So tapeworm comes segmented, usually around 15 per tapeworm. And the problem is, if you don't deworm your chickens and you have an issue, they stop laying eggs, they're lethargic, they're losing weight, they have no energy, it's because the worms are eating all the nutrients that your chickens are trying to digest from their food. They're not getting anything from it. So in essence, they're slowly starving to death. And they will pass it to each other. Once they have worms and it's the eggs, or they're in the poop and they're walking around on they're gonna give it to each other, which is another reason why you want to quarantine chickens when you get a new chicken or new chickens. You quarantine them for a little while because you don't really know their history. You don't know where they've been or what they've been exposed to. So you wait before you combine them with the new flock, and you deworm them as soon as you get them. And then you check them to see if they have any illnesses or ailments before you start acclimating them with the flock. The problem with which one is it? It is those are the mice. So I'm just gonna stick with the worms for today because I don't want to have these super long videos. Worms are really important to get rid of. It's normal to have them. Gapeworm is just like it sounds like. Your chicken is gonna start gaping for air, because gapeworms attach to the interior lining of their esophagus. And so if your chicken's like, and they're like trying to gape for air, there's a chance they have gapeworms. They're not as common as the tapeworm and the roundworm, but it's possible. And they can also get lost in your chicken's body. They can go on like a walkabout, and if they wind up in the wrong spot, you'll know you have gapeworms because they can come out of your chicken's eye. It's pretty gross. We had it happen to Polly. Polly had, I'm like, what's in her eye? She had a worm in her eye. We dewormed all the chickens, and that was a tapeworm issue that particular time. And so every spring and fall, we deworm the chickens. And because we've been using the Valbazen for 2 years now, we have to switch to a new one this coming year. We're going to have to find another one that's effective. Now, if you talk to your vet, because if you do a fecal sample and it comes back that there's a really high worm load and you use Valbazen, the vet will probably tell you not to deworm them with a full dose immediately, because Valbazen is so effective. It knocks everything out so fast that you can overload your chicken's internal system and they can go into shock and die. So they'll wind up telling you to use half a dose, and then 7 to 10 days later, you're going to give them the second dose, because giving them that little half a dose, the roundworms are the easiest to kill. And so the Valbazen immediately knocks out the roundworms. The angel hair pasta comes out 2 days later, 2, 3, 4 days later, and it's done. Then 7 to 10 days later, you give them the other half of the dose, and it's going to kill them at that point. It'll be the tapeworms and anything else that they have. It can be coccidia. They can have coccidiosis. That's another type of like a parasite. I don't think that's a worm, but it causes a lot of the same issues that worms do. Coccidiosis or coccidia, either way, interchangeable. Diarrhea, bloody stools, blood on the exterior of the eggshells when they're passed. Coccidia is painful and very contagious, and so those has to be treated with an antibiotic, and it has to be caught. You got to catch it. If you don't catch it and pay attention to, you got to dig through shit sometimes. So one of the biggest suggestions I have is, when you have questions, I will talk about chickens all day. If you want to ask me, I'm happy to help. I don't want to say extensive knowledge, but I did get like a crash course in the last 3 years on chickens, because I love them and I read about them all the time, and I'll talk about chickens all day long. So I'm happy to answer any questions. But you can look online. There is a wealth of information on chickens, caring for chickens, chicken basics, chicken medicine, chicken ailments, everything. I recommend that you get at least 3 or 4 different perspectives, and make sure that you have at least, I would say, 80% of the same information coming out of those 3 or 4 sources to make sure that it's valid. Because one of the forums that we belong to is Backyard Chicken. It's a phenomenal forum, and there's so many knowledgeable people in there. But it's like a Facebook for chickens. There are people in there every single time you give them, well, what's wrong with my chicken? And you put a question in there, some legitimate answers come back. But there's always that idiot that comes back, Merrick's disease. And Merrick's disease. It's a very fast answer for a lot of people to say Merrick's disease, which is cancer. It's tumors. Merrick's disease is it's a terrible thing. But chances are it's worms or it's mites or it's lice. It's something simple. It's not necessarily going to be like, woo, go 0 to 10, Merrick's disease. So just be cautious with what you read online, and make sure you cross-reference it. You can always ask. I mean, Facebook, if you're on Facebook, Facebook has like poultry channels and all kinds of stuff. I'm not on Facebook, but TJ's got some backyard chicken places that he goes online. But I Google stuff, and there is an immense amount of information available. I just make sure I take the time to cross-reference it, and I use common sense. I pull this stuff out based on experience. I'm like, that doesn't. And make sure that you're matching up the symptoms for what the articles and the information are based on. If you have like 4 symptoms and you find something that's got 1 symptom in it, that's probably not it. Chickens have like the same 10 things that go wrong with them. There are many more, but there are like the 10 most common things that you're going to find with chickens. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them. If you know anybody, hit the like button, subscribe. I want to help anyone that wants to learn about chickens. I'm happy to help. We'll still post like the cute, funny videos, but this one's going to be about the worms. Next time I come back, I'm going to give you guys some information on mice. Like I do it every time. Lice and mites, because those are nasty, gnarly, and they need to be eradicated. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.